Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS, presenting to you the daily quiz for 23rd of September 2021. Let us begin and have a look at the first question for today. Which of the following committee or committees is or are associated with preserving the ecology and conservation of Western Ghats? Number 1, Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan Committee. Number 2, Pitamber Committee. Number 3, Madhav Gadgil Committee. Number 4, BP Jeevan Reddy Committee. This question has been asked because of the reference to the Madhav Gadgil Committee report on ecology of Western Ghats in this article in the Hindu newspaper today. We know that the Western Ghats is both a UNESCO World Heritage Site and also one among the biodiversity hotspots in the world. We need to remember here that there are two main committees that were formed with respect to the conservation of Western Ghats. One being the Madhav Gadgil Committee and the second one being Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan Committee. The Gadgil Committee was an environmental research commission which was formally called the Western Ghats Ecology Expert Panel, and the Gadgil Committee submitted its report in the year 2011. What this committee did was it defined the boundaries of Western Ghats for the purpose of ecological management. It also proposed the setting up of Western Ghats Ecology Authority. And this committee was followed by setting up of another committee to examine these recommendations that were made by Gadgil Committee. And that was Kasturi Rangan Committee that was set up in the year 2012. Also note that Pitamber Committee was set up to prepare a report on the state of environment in India, so this becomes incorrect. And BP Jeevan Reddy Committee was given the mandate of reviewing the provisions of AFSPA, which is Armed Forces Special Powers Act. So this also becomes incorrect. So the right answer to our question would be option B, 1 and 3 only. Now let us move on to question number 2. Which of the following statements with respect to Swadeshi movement is or are incorrect? It is also known as the Vande Mataram movement. The movement spread to Madras under Chidambaram Pillai. It remained confined to the upper and middle classes and zamindars and failed to reach masses, especially the peasantry. Why have we taken this question? There is a reference to the Swadeshi movement in this article in the Hindu newspaper today. In the year 1905, Viceroy Lord Curzon divided Bengal province into two, and the people of Bengal observed a day of mourning when the partition came into force. And this Swadeshi movement was launched as an anti-Bengal partition movement. The song Vande Mataram, which is written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, became the prayer song for all the meetings on anti-partition movement. And also this movement came to be known as the Vande Mataram movement. Therefore, statement number 1 becomes correct. This movement, that is the Swadeshi movement, saw the boycott of foreign goods, and also emphasis was laid upon self-reliance or Atma Shakti. While this was launched as an anti-Bengal partition movement, this movement also spread to other parts of the country. It spread to Pune and Bombay under the leadership of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and it spread to Punjab under Lala Lajpat Rai and Ajit Singh, and to Delhi under Syed Haider Raza, and also to Madras under Chidambaram Pillai. So statement number 2 becomes correct. But we have to note that this movement failed to reach the peasants. It failed to reach the masses. It was mostly on a larger scale, limited only to the upper class and the middle class as well as the zamindars. So statement 3 also becomes correct. Therefore, the right answer to our question would be option D, none of the above, because the question is asking us for the incorrect statements. Also note that the Swadeshi movement was further strengthened by Mahatma Gandhi when he took a pledge to boycott foreign goods. And this he did by burning about 1,50,000 English clothes in Mumbai on the 31st of July in 1921. Coming to question number 3. Which of the following pairs is or are correctly matched? We have the strait and the joining seas or water bodies. Number 1, Hormuz Strait joins the Gulf of Oman and Persian Gulf. Number 2, Bab el Mandeb, the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. Number 3, Sunda Strait, the South China Sea and the East China Sea. Let us have a look at the map to answer this question. Here we have the Hormuz Strait. The Strait of Hormuz is a strategic maritime choke point that connects the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman. And this provides the only sea passage from Persian Gulf to the open ocean. Hence, this is one of the world's most strategic straits. And yes, it is a strait between Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. Therefore, number 1 becomes correct. Now looking at Bab el Mandeb. Now this is a strait between Yemen on the Arabian Peninsula and Djibouti and Eritrea in the Horn of Africa. So this connects the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. So number 2 also becomes correct. If we have a look at the Sunda Strait here, it connects the Indian Ocean and the Java Sea and not the South China Sea and the East China Sea. So number 3 becomes incorrect. And this brings us to our right answer, which is option B, 1 and 2 only. The task for you for today is to let us know which strait connects the South China Sea and the East China Sea. Let me know in the comment section. We have taken this question as there is a reference to the Gulf of Aden and the Persian Gulf in this PIB article today. What does this PIB article talk about? It talks about INS Tabar, which undertook multiple maritime partnerships with many foreign navies as it was mission deployed on international waters for over 3 months. The strategic straits that we discussed and the places in news become really important from the point of view of examination. Coming to question number 4, consider the following statements with respect to Section 66A of the Information Technology Act frequently in news. Number 1, it defines the punishment for sending offensive messages through a computer or any other communication device. Number 2, the Supreme Court struck down the section declaring it as violative of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Which of the given statements is or are incorrect? Why have we taken this question? There is a reference to Section 66A of the Information Technology Act in this article in the Hindu newspaper today, Delhi edition. And according to this article, the Delhi High Court has asked the centre to consider a petition which seeks to remove all those provisions from the statute which have already been declared unconstitutional. For example, there is Section 66A of the Information Technology Act which was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. This section of the IT Act has frequently been in the news. Why? Because people are still being booked and tried under this Section 66A even now. That is, even after 6 years of it being struck down by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional and a violation of free speech. So what exactly is in this Section 66A? The Section 66A of Information Technology Act gave the authorities a power. That is, the power to arrest anyone that is accused of posting content on the social media which could be deemed as offensive. And this section defined the punishment for sending offensive messages through any computer or any other communication device. And being convicted under this section meant a maximum of 3 years in jail and a fine. In the year 2015, in the Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case, the Supreme Court scrapped the Section 66A of Information Technology Act and stated that it arbitrarily, excessively and disproportionately invades Article 19 Clause 1 Clause A of the Indian Constitution. That is, it was struck down because it could have a chilling effect on free speech. So when we have a look at the question here, statement number 1 becomes correct. And statement number 2 becomes incorrect because it was struck down on the grounds that it invades Article 19 Clause 1 Clause A, that is the right to freedom of speech and expression, and not Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which says that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to a procedure established by law. So the right answer to this question would be option B, 2 only, as the question is asking us for incorrect statement. Now let us take up a previous year question from Prelims paper 2016. What was the main reason for the split in the Indian National Congress at Surat in 1907? Option A, introduction of communalism in Indian politics by Lord Minto. Option B, extremist lack of faith in the capacity of moderates to negotiate with the British government. Option C, foundation of Muslim League. Option D, Aurobindo Ghosh's inability to be elected as the President of Indian National Congress. The right answer to this question would be option B. Why? The Morley Minto reforms were introduced in the year 1909 and much after the Surat split. So this becomes incorrect. And there is no relation between the Surat split and the formation of Muslim League. So this also becomes incorrect. In the year 1907, the extremists wanted either Tilak or Lajpat Rai to be the president. So when Raj Behari Ghosh was announced as the president, the extremists resorted to violence. And it was not because Aurobindo Ghosh was not elected as the president. So the right answer to our question would be option B. Because the extremists questioned the ability of moderates to negotiate with the British government through their ways and means. Hence, there was a disagreement between the moderates and extremists, which is why the extremists split from the Indian National Congress in the year 1907, which is termed as the Surat Split. The fact of the day for today is World Rhino Day. Every year, September 22nd is celebrated as World Rhino Day. This is done to spread awareness for conservation of all 5 species of rhino and the work being done to save them. So there are 5 different species of rhino, that is white and black rhinos in Africa, and the greater one-horned rhino, the Javan rhino and the Sumatran rhino in Asia. The greater one-horned rhino, which was earlier classified as endangered as per the IUCN Red List, is now listed as vulnerable. That is, its conservation status has become better. The white rhino is listed as near threatened, the black rhino critically endangered, and both the Javan and Sumatran rhinos critically endangered. We know that the Kaziranga National Park in Assam is famous for the greater one-horned rhino, and India has taken various steps for conservation of the greater one-horned rhino. In the year 2019, the Assam government had constituted a dedicated special rhino protection force. And this was done to keep a check on rhino poaching and the related activities in the Kaziranga National Park. On this year's World Rhino Day, something unusual took place. The state of Assam marked World Rhino Day with a special ceremony. And the ceremony involved burning of a stockpile of nearly 2,500 horns of the one-horned rhinoceros. So why were the rhino horns burnt? It was a step taken towards the rhino conservation that was aimed at bursting the myth about rhino horns. See, these rhino horns are poached and the rhino horns are smuggled as they are believed to have medicinal value. And in Vietnam, possessing a rhino horn is considered a status symbol. And in the illegal market, therefore, such horns, that is the rhino horns, can fetch a very high price. And therefore, poaching and smuggling have become impediments in rhino conservation efforts. So to send a message that such items have no medicinal value or no value, rhino horns were burnt by the Assam Forest Department. So you might ask, where did they find these 2,500 horns? These rhino horns have been stored in treasuries across the state of Assam over decades. So what happens is, when a rhino dies, either out of natural causes or due to poaching, its horn is kept in the custody. It is stored in the treasury. And because India is a signatory to CITES, it is illegal to sell these horns even within the country. So to send a message that this has no medicinal value, rhino horns were publicly destroyed by the Assam Forest Department. That is all for today. Thank you for being with us. Keep watching and keep learning.